The Green Bay Packers start the 2016 preseason off with the Hall of Fame game against the Indianapolis Colts. I know a lot of Packers fans, they're waiting on this. What have you been doing to get ready for this upcoming season? I can talk all day about the success of this team, but it was time to hit the track just to show you how talented they really are. Welcome into our high school football game of the week as we get set to see the 4-0 Webb City Cardinals take on the 2-0 Pittsburgh Purple Dragons. And joining me at this time is the head coach of the Cardinals, Coach John Roderick. And Coach, what have you seen from this Pittsburgh team as you've been watching and scouting this week?
This is the 130th annual ski jump from Suicide Hill, and I have someone with me right now that's had a chance to work on these hills, but he's also had a time in his life where he jumped on these hills.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome into the first round of the district playoffs here in Missouri as we get set for the Indians of Seneca as they host the East Newton Patriots. And joining me at this time is the head coach of the Indians, Coach McFarland. And Coach, you guys had an 8-1 season this year. You and I talked a little bit. It might have been a bit surprising, but you were happy to see it. What went right this season for you guys?
The start of the Winter Olympics is fastly approaching, and one of the most watched sporting events will be curling. But not many people have actually played the sport. So I traveled down to the Jones Center in Springdale, Arkansas for a closer look. It's a sport that you watch during the Olympics but may not know a lot about.
The sport is slowly growing, and because of the Olympics this year, I'll probably get a bunch more phone calls before the end of the season.
On Sundays at the Jones Center in Springdale, Arkansas, you'll meet Mark Curtis and curlers of all experience levels.
Well, we generally have a group of experienced curlers, and I usually end up teaching the people that show up and want to learn the sport, and we try to work them into a game later on.
On this particular Sunday, Mr. Curtis would have 4 new students, including me.
That's the start. That's the beginning.
But before you can get into the match, you have to learn the basics.
The sport of curling is played with 4 people on a team. Each person throws 2 stones, and they play 8 lengths or 10 lengths of the ice. The object of the game, of course, is to get the stone closer to the middle than your opponent. You can hit your opponent's stones out, and they can hit your stones out.
After that, you learn proper starting techniques, how to release the stone, and you practice your sweeping skills on the ice.
And if the person throwing the stone doesn't throw it hard enough, the sweepers on his team can sweep the stone and increase the distance the stone travels. There's nothing legally you can do to stop the stone, but if you don't throw it hard enough, the sweepers can actually get it into scoring position.
And when the training is done, it's time to put it all to work. Unfortunately, I didn't have many good throws on my first day, which makes it safe to say I won't be in South Korea next week.
In my life, I really enjoyed the 2 years I was here at Joplin.
The key to success for the 1967 state championship basketball team at Joplin High School came to them in the form of 6'7" Thorpe Weber from New Hampshire.
My dad retired from the Air Force, and I was used to moving all the time. When in the Air Force, we would travel every 2 years, so it was something different for my dad, and we were excited about coming down to Joplin because my grandmother lived in Lamar, Missouri, and so it was just a good thing for me to move here.
And it wouldn't take long for Thorpe and his teammates like James Ray to bond.
We knew that the schools out of Springfield were very strong, especially Parkview out of Springfield was a very strong program, and we didn't know how we would compete. And then we got news that what ends up being Thorpe in Rose, and didn't take long for that word to get around.
The Eagles would march their way to the state title game led by Weber, only to meet undefeated and defending Missouri Class L champs, Kansas City Central.
When we got up there, it was a situation kind of difficult for us. On our team, we probably had 2 players that could dunk the ball, and one wished he could. And when we looked down at the other end, they had 12 players, and 11 of them dunked the ball, and 2 or 3 of them dunked 2 balls at once at the end.
And on Friday night after we'd beat Lindbergh, and we had watched a little bit of the game with Kansas City Central, and I believe it was St. Louis Beaumont, I was kind of overwhelmed by what the athleticism I saw. And what I remember more than anything was Thorpe going, we can beat them.
And the Eagles would do just that, courtesy of a 13-point comeback and outscoring their opponents 7-2 in overtime. Weber would continue his career at Vanderbilt while Ray went on to play at Pitt State. And now 50 years later, the two were able to reunite on the new hardwood of Joplin High.
This is a beautiful facility. It's a high school, correct?
Right.
And the gymnasium's a little overwhelming, isn't it,
Yeah,
Thorpe?
it looks like a college.
It looks like a small college facility. It's very nice.
And as basketball season grows closer this year, the 1967 team will truly be one that won't be forgotten. Good evening, everyone, and yes, this is the prized lip sync championship belt over my shoulder
from the Lake Superior Hospice lip sync battle that Team TV6 won last night.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to Frontenac as we're getting ready for the sub-state round of the high school football playoffs here in Kansas as Frontenac's host Topeka Hayden. I'm actually joined by two special guests at this time. We're going to start with Miss Ann Brown now. Your son Peyton, he's going to be playing in this game. Shaky start to the season, but we're talking about one game away from the state championship. As a mother, what have you seen go right for this team? With the high school football season being over in Missouri and Kansas and Oklahoma being in the final week, here are the top performers of the 2017 season. We head now to number 5, and we have a tie starting with senior Carthage receiver Arkell Smith. 65 catches this season, 1,201 yards, and 9 touchdowns on the season. Smith helped lead the Tigers to a 9-4 record with a trip to the Class 5 state semifinal game. Also tied at number 5, the junior running back from Webb City High School, Durand Henderson. Henderson rushed for 1,620 yards and 23 touchdowns. Added his receiving, kick return, and punt return yards, Henderson finished with 2,032 all-purpose yards and 25 total touchdowns. And oh, by the way, he's getting a ring. He's a state champion. In at number 4, Carl Junction junior running back Raekwon Weston. Weston rushed for 1,513 yards, added 532 receiving yards with 29 total touchdowns. Weston finished the season with 2,120 all-purpose yards, had 44 tackles, 10 for a loss, plus forced a safety this season. And to number 3, we've got to give some love to the big man there, one of the key anchors for the Webb City offensive line, Landon Beebe. Beebe in the Webb City line helped the Cardinals' rushing attack amass 4,572 yards and 63 rushing touchdowns. Beebe helped lead the Cardinal front line and that rushing attack in the state championship as well to 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. In at number 2 is the quarterback for the Afton Eagles, Will Amos. Amos so far has 2,829 rushing yards and 39 touchdowns, plus he adds 1,124 yards through the air and 16 passing touchdowns. This season, Amos is responsible for 58 total touchdowns and 4,481 all-purpose yards with just the state championship game left to play. And in at number 1, one of the best two-way players in the state, Cooper Lucas of Lamar. Lucas rushed for 1,890 yards and 31 touchdowns on the season. On defense, Lucas recorded 57 tackles and 11 sacks. Lucas also rushed for a touchdown in the state championship game as he helped the Tigers win their 7th consecutive state title.